Mia Ortega had always been fascinated by the night sky. Since she was a child, the stars had whispered secrets to her, tales of distant worlds and unexplained phenomena. Now, at 19, a college sophomore, studying film and photography, Mia's passion had turned into a quiet obsession. On a crisp autumn evening in 2011, Mia packed her camcorder and drove 3 hours from her university town to Crystal Lake, a remote, nearly forgotten stretch of water tucked away in the mountains. The locals rarely visited, and cell phone service was spotty at best. It was the perfect place, Mia thought, to capture something extraordinary. Her plan was simple: film the night sky, hoping to catch the elusive auroras, or maybe something more. The lake's still surface mirrored the heavens, a natural canvas waiting to be painted with light. As Mia set up her equipment on the shore, the sun slipped beneath the horizon, leaving a deep blue darkness that swallowed the trees and the water alike. She adjusted the camcorder's settings, her fingers trembling slightly with excitement and chill. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, and the only sounds were the gentle lapping of water and the distant calls of night birds. Hours passed with nothing unusual, just the steady dance of stars and the occasional passing cloud. Mia's eyelids grew heavy, but she refused to stop filming. Then, just after midnight, strange lights appeared over the lake. They weren't like any shooting stars or planes she'd seen before. The lights flickered in shifting colors: green, violet, then an almost unnatural white, hovering low above the water. Mia's breath caught as she pointed the camera upwards. Her fingers fumbled for the record button. The camcorder whirred to life, capturing every flicker and shimmer. Suddenly the lights swirled faster, brighter, and one seemed to dive toward the lake's surface. Mia gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief and fear. She swung the camera around as if to show someone else, but she was alone. The final seconds of footage captured her startled face, eyes darting into the darkness behind her, as if she sensed something, someone, watching. Then the tape abruptly ended. The next morning, Mia's car was found abandoned on the gravel road leading to Crystal Lake. The doors were wide open, keys still in the ignition, but the camcorder was nowhere to be found. Search parties scoured the area for weeks, but no sign of Mia was ever uncovered. What happened that night remained a mystery. News of Mia Ortega's disappearance spread quickly through the small college town. Her classmates, professors, and family clung to hope, but as days turned into weeks, the hope began to wane. The local sheriff's department launched a thorough search of the Crystal Lake area, but the dense forest and rugged terrain made it nearly impossible to cover every inch. Mia's parents, Elena and Carlos Ortega, arrived from their home city to join the search. Elena's eyes were red and swollen from sleepless nights, but her voice remained steady as she spoke to the volunteers. Carlos kept to himself, his worry simmering beneath a stoic exterior. "We'll find her," Elena told a group of friends gathered in the church basement, turned into a makeshift command center. "Mia's strong. She wouldn't just disappear." But the evidence, or lack of it, told a different story. The car was there, doors wide open, like someone had left in a hurry. Yet Mia was gone without a trace. The camcorder, her prized possession, was missing too. Days after the disappearance, search dogs were brought in, but even they could not pick up a scent leading away from the car. The forest seemed to swallow everything whole. Inside the university, Mia's dorm room was left untouched, a silent shrine to the girl who loved to capture beauty on film. Her notebooks were filled with star charts and observations. Her computer held unfinished video edits and plans for a documentary she dreamed of making. At the local news station, reporters covered the story obsessively, speculating on theories. Had Mia been abducted? Had she run away? Or had something unexplainable happened by the lake that night? One reporter, Claire Davis, became especially interested. She was young but tenacious, sensing there was more to Mia's story than anyone realized. Claire had interviewed Mia once for a student film project and remembered her as curious, passionate, and determined. Claire began digging into Mia's background, Her friends, her habits, her recent behavior. Nothing seemed out of place except her fascination with the mysterious lights. Meanwhile, the community held vigils and candlelight walks along the lake shore. Strangers and friends gathered, hoping for a miracle. But as the search dragged on with no new leads, an uneasy feeling settled over the town, a whisper that some things are better left alone. 11 years passed. The world moved on, but for the Ortega family, every day remained frozen in 2011. Mia's disappearance had become a cold case, buried under layers of unanswered questions and fading hope. Elena and Carlos had moved away, unable to bear the constant reminders, but their hearts never left Crystal Lake. Then, in a storage facility hundreds of miles away, a man named Greg Simmons was tasked with clearing out a long-overdue locker. The owner had vanished years ago, and the contents were now being auctioned off. Inside a dusty locked box, Greg found something unexpected, a weathered camcorder with the initials M.O. delicately engraved on the side. Curious, Greg took the camcorder home. The battery was dead, and he had no idea if the tape inside was still intact. After a few tries, he managed to find a replacement battery and powered it on. The screen flickered to life, showing grainy footage of a dark lake at night. As the tape played, a familiar gasp pierced the silence. The camera's view shifted abruptly. Someone else was behind the lens, capturing Mia's terrified face as she looked off screen. Greg's hands trembled. The footage was chilling, and he immediately thought of the old missing persons case he'd read about. The resemblance was undeniable. Without knowing what else to do, Greg contacted the local authorities. Soon, the news broke. Mia Ortega's camcorder, missing for over a decade, had been found. For the Ortega family, it was like a spark had been struck in the ashes. Elena's trembling hands reached for the phone, her voice barely a whisper as she called the police to ask for the tape. Meanwhile, Claire Davis, now a seasoned investigative journalist, heard the news. The discovery reignited her obsession with the case. She reached out to the Ortega family and requested access to the footage. As the tape was carefully examined by forensic experts, questions mounted. Who was holding the camera in those final moments? Why had Mia's footage ended so abruptly? And most haunting of all, what had really happened to Mia Ortega on that cold, lonely night at Crystal Lake? The answers, it seemed, were hidden within the grainy images of a camcorder long forgotten. The room was dimly lit, the glow from the monitor casting long shadows on the walls. Claire Davis sat beside the Ortega family as forensic video analysts played the recovered tape, frame by frame. The grainy black and white footage showed the familiar landscape of Crystal Lake. The dark water, the outline of trees, the shifting lights in the sky. Mia's figure appeared, her breath visible in the cold night air, her hands clutching the camcorder tightly. Then the unexpected happened. The camera angle suddenly shifted. It was no longer focused on the sky or the lake, but on Mia herself, her wide eyes flicking nervously toward something unseen just beyond the frame. A gasp echoed through the room as Mia's face twisted in fear. She swung the camcorder around, and for a split second the screen revealed a shadowy figure standing silently in the darkness behind her. The figure's features were indistinct, obscured by the night and the low resolution of the tape. But the presence was unmistakable, watching, waiting. Mia's hand shook violently as she tried to keep the camera steady. Her voice, a barely audible whisper, came through the speakers. "Who's there? Please, don't—" Then the footage cut off abruptly. Static filled the screen. Questions flooded the room. Who was the figure? Why had Mia stopped filming? Had she been trying to call for help? Forensic experts confirmed that the tape had not been edited or tampered with since it was recorded, ruling out any later manipulation. It was a raw, unfiltered glimpse into Mia's final moments. But the most perplexing detail was that the camcorder had been missing for 11 years, found locked away in a storage unit hundreds of miles away. Why had it been there? And who had placed it in the locked box? Claire pressed the authorities for answers, determined to uncover the truth. The Ortega family clung to the hope that the footage might finally reveal what happened to their daughter. But the shadows of Crystal Lake had secrets, and some of them were far darker than anyone had imagined. In the days following the release of the footage, the case of Mia Ortega gripped the nation once again. The chilling images from the camcorder sent shockwaves through communities, and online forums buzzed with speculation. Who was the shadowy figure? What had happened that night at Crystal Lake? Claire Davis immersed herself deeper into the investigation. She interviewed locals who had been near the lake the night Mia disappeared, but no one reported seeing anything unusual. The only clue was an old legend whispered among the townsfolk, stories of strange lights and disappearances near the lake, dating back decades. Claire's inquiries led her to a retired park ranger named Harold Jenkins. He had patrolled the area for over 30 years and had a reputation for knowing its secrets. When Claire met him, his eyes held a mixture of sorrow and caution. "I've seen things out there, things no one wants to talk about," Harold admitted. "Lights in the sky that don't belong to this world. People vanish and the woods just swallow them up." He told Claire about previous disappearances, hikers, campers, all linked by one thing, reports of strange lights similar to those Mia had filmed. Meanwhile, forensic analysts examined the camcorder itself. Though the battery was long dead, experts discovered faint fingerprints on the casing, some matching Mia's, but others unidentified. The storage unit where the camcorder was found belonged to a man named Daniel Mercer, a name unknown to the Ortega family or local police. Claire tracked down Mercer, who had mysteriously disappeared years ago without a trace. His last known address was in the same town as the storage facility. The discovery raised more questions than answers. Who was Daniel Mercer? How did Mia's camcorder end up in his possession? Was there a connection between Mercer and the shadowy figure in the footage? As Claire dug deeper, she felt the weight of unseen eyes watching her every move, as if the mystery itself was alive, intent on hiding its truth. Claire's investigation into Daniel Mercer became a race against time. Despite her efforts, Mercer remained elusive. No recent photographs, no social media presence, no contact with family or friends. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, much like Mia. Digging through public records, Claire discovered that Mercer had once worked as a technician for a local observatory near Crystal Lake. His fascination with unusual aerial phenomena was well known among colleagues, but after a scandal involving missing equipment, he quietly disappeared from the scientific community. Claire managed to track down one former coworker, Dr. Evelyn Hart, who agreed to speak on the condition of anonymity. Daniel was obsessed with the idea that there was something out there, something influencing the natural world around Crystal Lake, Evelyn explained. He believed the strange lights were not just atmospheric, but connected to something deeper, something people were afraid to confront. Evelyn handed Claire a box of old research notes Daniel had left behind before vanishing. The pages were filled with cryptic symbols, sketches of lights, and maps marking hotspots near the lake. One entry stood out: the point of contact, where the veil is thinnest, must observe carefully. The watcher is always present. The phrase sent a chill down Claire's spine. That night, Claire reviewed the recovered camcorder footage again, this time focusing on the surroundings and background noises. In the final moments, barely audible under Mia's gasps, was a faint humming sound, an unnatural vibration that seemed to resonate with the strange lights outside. Claire began to suspect that Mia's disappearance was tied not just to human actions, but to something paranormal, something that defied explanation. Determined to uncover the truth, Claire planned a trip to Crystal Lake herself, hoping to retrace Mia's final steps and confront the shadows that lingered there. But as she prepared to leave, an anonymous message arrived on her phone. "Some truths are better left in the dark. Stop digging." Claire stood at the edge of Crystal Lake, the chill autumn wind tugging at her coat. The place looked almost unchanged from the photos Mia had taken, the still water reflecting the night sky, the thick woods hemming the shore like silent guardians. But now, after years of rumors and tragedies, it felt like the land itself was watching her. Her footsteps crunched over fallen leaves as she made her way to the spot where Mia had last been seen. The moon hung low, casting silver light over the trees and water, and the night was unnervingly quiet. Claire set up her own camera equipment, determined to capture anything unusual. Hours passed without incident. Then, just as she was about to give up, a faint glow appeared above the lake. The lights flickered, green, violet, then brilliant white, dancing silently in the sky, just as Mia had described. Claire's heart pounded as she recorded, every instinct warning her to flee, but curiosity binding her in place. Suddenly, from the shadows, a figure emerged. It was an older man with piercing eyes and a weathered face, Harold Jenkins, the retired park ranger Claire had spoken to before. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly, his voice heavy with warning. "The lake takes what it wants." Claire pressed for answers. Harold revealed a chilling truth. Over the decades, the lake had been the site of inexplicable vanishings, all linked by the mysterious lights. The locals believed the lake was a threshold, a gateway where the boundaries between worlds grew thin. "People disappear because they see too much," Harold said grimly. "The Watcher, it doesn't like being disturbed." As the lights swirled overhead, Claire felt a cold grip tighten around her chest. She realized the mystery was far bigger and darker than she had imagined. But turning back now meant abandoning Mia's story, and Claire was determined to find the truth, no matter the cost. The night grew colder, the lights above Crystal Lake pulsing like a heartbeat. Claire's fingers trembled as she aimed her camera toward the sky, capturing every flicker and shift. The air was thick with tension, a silence so profound it seemed to swallow even her breath. Harold stood beside her, eyes fixed on the glowing spectacle. "They call it the Watcher," he whispered, "an ancient presence tied to this land. It watches, waits, and sometimes it takes." Claire's mind raced. The shadowy figure in Mia's footage, the mysterious fingerprints on the camcorder, the anonymous warning message, all connected to this Watcher. Suddenly the lights converged, forming a swirling vortex just above the lake's surface. A low humming filled the air, vibrating through Claire's bones. Then, from the darkness, a voice echoed, soft, distant, almost otherworldly. "Mia?" Claire's heart skipped. The voice was unmistakably Mia's. Harold gripped her arm. "It's calling her. It's been calling her all these years." Claire felt an overwhelming urge to step closer to the water's edge. The Watcher's glow intensified, and shapes began to emerge from the lake, ghostly figures shimmering beneath the surface, faces frozen in time. Among them, Claire glimpsed Mia's terrified eyes, locked in a silent plea for help. Desperation surged through Claire. She reached out, calling Mia's name. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then the lights vanished, plunging the lake and forest into darkness. Silence returned, but Claire knew the Watcher was still there, waiting, watching. And Mia's fate, though still shrouded in mystery, was no longer hidden. The dawn broke over Crystal Lake with a soft, pale light, but the chill in the air remained. Claire sat by the water's edge, the weight of the night pressing down on her. She had witnessed something no one else had, something impossible to explain, yet undeniably real. Harold stood quietly beside her, the years of guarding this secret etched deeply in his face. "Mia didn't just vanish," Harold said softly. "She crossed over, pulled into the Watcher's realm. It's a place between worlds where time doesn't move the same." Claire stared at the still water, recalling the ghostly faces she had seen, trapped souls like Mia's, lost but never gone. Determined to honor Mia's memory, Claire vowed to tell her story, to reveal the truth hidden for over a decade. The recovered camcorder footage was just the beginning, a glimpse into a mystery that defied logic and reason. Back home, the Ortega family watched the news coverage with mixed emotions: relief, sorrow, and a fragile hope. Elena whispered a quiet prayer, feeling closer to her daughter than she had in years. Months later, Claire's documentary aired worldwide, weaving together the pieces of Mia's story with interviews, footage, and the haunting legends of Crystal Lake. It sparked debate, fear, and wonder, reminding the world that some mysteries are real and some disappearances never truly end. And somewhere, in a place beyond sight, Mia's spirit found peace. Her final gasp captured forever on that forgotten tape, a silent witness to a night when the veil between worlds was lifted, if only for a moment.